right, welcome everybody. I'm Lucian, and today we have a special guest that will talk about industrial cybersecurity, a Cleveland State alumni. Welcome, Joe Catanese of ABB. Can you tell us a little about yourself and how you got started in industrial cybersecurity?
Well, thank you, Lucian. My name is Joseph Catanese. I am a cybersecurity practice lead for the process automation business area in ABB. I've been in the ICS industry for about 13 years now. Started with ABB and continue to grow my career. Most of my experience has been in cybersecurity, managing a team and doing the field work in the industrial controls, power generation mostly, but other areas as well. My background is a bachelor in computer engineering from Ohio University, and then I moved on to a master's in business administration at Cleveland State University. So that's a bit of my background. Um, Pretty much my entire career has been in industrial control systems, and it's very interesting, very unique line of work.
Thank you for sharing that. I know it's a subject that's very dear to me as when we started the industrial IoT world, that was one of our first gated items. Who's in industrial IoT? Who's addressing this problem? So happy to see that it's
Mhm.
going on. So let's talk about some of the cyber risk in the industrial environment. A little bit different than the IT. Maybe go into a little definition there. What are some of the risks that you're seeing?
Certainly, yeah. There's definitely some parallels and some unique risks that exist within the industrial environment. Certainly, loss of information is a big risk that you see in both the IT and OT worlds. Stealing classified data, locking data behind ransomware. I think back to the NetWalker attack just last year with the Nell Group. Um, the other type of attack would be like a loss of control, a much more serious attack where you're losing the physical control over the devices that you're running or operating. So think back way back to the Ukraine attack. Where they lost control of the grid. It's a serious problem. And then on top of both these types of attacks or risks, you have these advanced persistent threats. You have a bad actor that's doing some long-term canvassing of your systems undetected in preparation for an attack. Um, Obviously, SolarWinds Orion is in the news right now, where it was a major advanced persistent threat within their system for quite some time, and even infected their supply chain. So,
I was just gonna say,
there
can
are
you
some major
clarify what
risks
that
there.
mean for the supply chain there, just on a SolarWinds, if you don't mind?
So, a supply chain attack, which was a theoretical attack before we've now realized it, um, is they have gotten their malicious code into the supply chain of delivery of updates through a secure method. Signed updates provided by the vendor to the software within that's delivered to the customer, um, so that you think it's a real update. It is a real update. It's just the malicious code is has been embedded so deep within that update that it's undetectable by your end customer and the supplier themselves.
Thanks for that, because it sounds like we're gonna hear a lot more about that particular throughout the 2021, only because it may have impact many other players from what we get or from what we know so far. So thanks for that.
Absolutely.
Now, uh, let's switch a little bit to the industry 4.0, and everybody's connected. Everything we've been connected for several decades. Obviously, been in the industry, but uh, is it now greater? Why is it different now than because we've been connecting things, including the supply chain, for several decades?
Right, right. Well, there's a lot of familiar ideas that are still around, concepts, tenets in cybersecurity that make up a foundation um, that we apply to the new technology. Technology keeps changing, interconnectivity keeps evolving. You have new tools, new interfaces, new technology built upon the same basic foundations to make the administration of security controls much easier. Um, on the flip side, though, the threat is greater than ever. You see it every day in the news. You see it in politics. You see it in general conversations with your friends and family. It surprises me, over the holidays, you hear people asking me about, solar winds. Um, so, there's no surprises there because, like you said, we've been connecting them for decades. We're connecting even more and more, and everything is getting more Ethernet based, and everything is starting to be exposed to the internet now more than ever before. And what this does is it makes, it vastly increases that surface area of vulnerability, um, that your cybersecurity professionals now must protect. Um, the in addition to that, the types of attack tools and vulnerabilities have now been democratized to a point where anybody can download an image of some attack tools, and the level of skill required to execute some of these attacks is fairly low, in comparison to what it's been years ago. We've also seen a dramatic increase in nation state activity, um, very focused attacks, with massive budgets and personnel that are coordinating these things. IBM's X Force Threat Intelligence Index found that attacks on industrial manufacturing have increased about 2,000% since 2018. So the old uh, cybersecurity by obscurity is no longer really a valid cybersecurity program, for industrial controls, at least.
Let's talk about some of the, uh, I guess, some of the pitfalls, some of the things that the people that work in securing the industrial control systems, cybersecurity, are most likely to overlook, and why.
So, some of the common things that I see, I'll mention, let's say two things. One is the maintenance. Um, One of the things I often see is, um, you'll go out and install some security controls, whitelisting, backup and recovery, you know, some decent controls, and then you come back later and find that it's not been touched. Things, there's been errors, there's been warnings, things haven't been looked at or addressed properly, and that could be a variety of problems. Not having enough bandwidth, not having enough people that are dedicated to looking at your controls and maintaining those controls. um, Also, it might just be the information is just not getting to the right people, notifications not set up properly, or they're not going to the right places where they need, or they're just not getting the visibility. So, a lot there may be a little bit of a feeling that we've bought these controls, we've set them up, we've installed them. Now we can just let them run and just let it go. But that's not necessarily the case. They need constant maintenance and looking after. And then the other side of that is knowing what you have. Particularly when there's cybersecurity notifications, cybersecurity alerts, ICS cert notifications. Um, a lot of times we find that you don't know, or our customers don't know, if it affects them or not, because they may not have an up-to-date asset inventory, they may not have a detailed enough asset inventory, um, or it may be out of date. They may have done it and they're just not certain of whether a security notification or advisory affects them or not. So oftentimes they come to us and ask us, "Hey, does this affect us?"
Great insights. Maybe just a little bit deeper on the, perhaps, what are you seeing from your customers? Is industrial, the ICS cybersecurity, industrial control system cybersecurity, is it getting enough attention now?
It's certainly getting a lot of attention now, and the more and more we see it in the news, It's definitely ramped up in my business, my
Mhm.
day-to-day business. I see much more customers engaging in it.
Mhm.
I see it engaged on the corporate side as well as the plant side, all the way up and down the levels. Um, but it's one of the issues is with it getting attention is, of course, everything costs money, and cybersecurity is preventative. So there's really a difficult way. It's very difficult to provide that value proposition to your customers when you're saying this is really insurance, and you're only realizing it in preventative attacks or recovery or something of that nature. So um, it's very difficult to quantify that to a customer, and
Yeah.
as a manager who has a financial responsibility, it's a hard thing to justify as well. So
Appreciate the insights. Yes, definitely. It's going to come down to at least some of the organizations to. It may impact the financials, meaning that we've seen an increase, at least prior to COVID, of presence of Moody's into talking to the control system engineers, and what would the customer do if their credit rating is affected by the lack of the cybersecurity measures in place. So yeah, it'd be an interesting time. Now that was prior to COVID. Let's talk about a pandemic and the uh, has that changed the level of nature of the cyber threat companies face? We're working
eh,
remotely. We're trying to troubleshoot. We're trying to keep social distancing. So what are you seeing there?
yeah, certainly it's made a very large impact. With the amount of people working remotely, it's definitely increasing your company's surface area vulnerability with having so many people connecting remotely, increasing the bandwidth on your remote servers and the requirements to provide remote access. Going back to talking about the advanced persistent threats, they normally start with some compromised corporate account, spear phishing or a compromised laptop or something of that nature. Now everybody's working from home on their home networks, and it makes the job of the information security team much more difficult to provide protections around that, and it also increases the space in which attackers can find some level of compromise.
So Joe, beyond this partnership with IBM, how else does ABB help its customer manage their cybersecurity or the industrial control cybersecurity plans?
Yeah, so ABB has really made cybersecurity part of its culture. It's present in everything we do, from the security requirements that we have for our suppliers, our own internal security development lifecycle for product development, our minimum cybersecurity requirements for projects and services, and the core of our foundation, which is the reference architecture for delivering our industrial control systems. We've made sure that cybersecurity is built into every delivery and service that we provide to our customers throughout the entire supply chain and life cycle. The ABB process automation business area provides each of its divisions with this three-tier portfolio of cybersecurity controls and services. Those tiers range from one-time assessments to security controls, um, or full-on security operations support. Um, what ABB does is, we aim to provide this comprehensive coverage to meet our customers' unique demands and ensure that they have safe and secure operations in this ever-changing digital landscape.
Thank you, Joe. And I fully agree. It has to be part of a DNA. It cannot just be a checkbox cybersecurity.
Hmm.
We've done it. It has to be
Right.
a constant process of reviewing. It has to be part of the, like you're saying, part of a culture to do that. And if you're an audience and you have questions for Joe or other folks from ABB, feel free to leverage the hashtag you see displayed on the screen and also the link to the industrial control cybersecurity practice that will help you at least if you haven't got started, to get started, but at least perhaps is crank up the awareness as well as the prevention of the cyber attacks. With that, appreciate Joe. Any comments, lasting parting comments? Any words of wisdom?
Thank you so much for your time, I hope to continue to join you in conversations again and answer questions with your viewers.
Look forward to having you, Joe.